Hello students, now we are going to see fourth chapter from 8 science, that materials, metals and non-metals. So you are familiar with the number of materials like iron, aluminium, copper, etc. You can name the materials which are metals. So the metals can be distinguished from non-metals on the basis of their physical and chemical properties. So which are those? Yes, so first we will see physical properties of metals and non-metals. So you know that the shape of the iron nail and the aluminium wire changed on beating. If they were beaten harder, those could be changed there into the sheets. You might be familiar with silver foil. So see activity 2. Yes. So you know how make an electric circuit to test whether the electricity can pass through an object or not. You might have performed the activity with various objects. Now repeat the activity with the materials observed and group these materials into good conductor and poor conductor. What you observe? So yes, you observe that iron rod, nail and copper wire are good conductor, while rolled the sulfur piece and coal piece are poor conductors. Through this, we can come to know that which of the metals are poor conductors and which are good conductors. Now the next property is ductility. Where do you find the use of aluminium and copper wires? Have you seen wire of coal? Definitely not. So the property of metal by which it can be drawn into the wire is called ductility. Sonorousness. The things made of metal produce a ringing sound when struck hard. Since metals produce ringing sound, they are said to be sonorous. Have you seen wooden bell in temples? Can you give the reason? Yes, you are able to give the reason that yes, but after I think performing the activity, you are say that some materials are hard, lustrous, metallic, ductile, sonorous, and good conductors of heat and electricity. The materials which generally possesses these properties are called metal. The examples of metal are iron, copper, aluminium, calcium, magnesium, etc. In contrast, material like coal and sulfur are soft and dull in appearance. They break down into the powdery mass on tapping with the hammer. They are non-sonorous and are poor conductor of heat and electricity. These materials are called non-metals. The examples of non-metals are sulfur, carbon, oxygen, phosphorus, etc. Now we will see chemical properties of metals and non-metals. For that, first we will see how these metals and non-metals reacting with the oxygen. So yes, first we will start reaction with the oxygen. So you are familiar with the phenomena of rusting of iron. you had learned that in both the processes, means the oxides formation takes place. Means in these processes, iron oxide is formed. So just see the activity 3. Let us check the nature of the rust formed as a result of the reaction between iron, oxygen and water. So, if you have seen the rust suspension, so you observe that red litmus paper, which for this what you have to do, you have to take the rust, make the solution, and if you observe the solution, you will find that you will get, means whenever you are testing it with the solution with the red litmus paper and blue litmus paper, so you observe that the red litmus turns to blue. What it indicates? As you are aware, when the red litmus paper turns to blue, so they are basic in nature. So just see here, the red litmus paper is get turned to blue one. Activity in detail. So collect that spoonful of rust and dissolve it in very little amount of water. You will find that the rust remains suspended in water. Shake the suspension well, test the solution with the red and blue litmus paper. So what do you observe? Is the solution acidic or basic? So you must have observed that the red litmus turns to blue. So oxide of magnesium is also basic in nature. In general, metallic oxides are basic in nature. Just see activity 4. Yes, precaution we have to take that this demonstration is done by teachers in the class. Take a small amount of powdered sulfur in deflagrating spoon and heat it. So as if suppose the spoon is not available, you may take the metallic cap of any bottle and wrap a metallic wire around it. As soon as the sulfur starts burning, introduce the spoon into the glass jar or the glass tumbler. The gas jar is also there, so you can put it in a gas jar or the glass tumbler. Cover the tumbler with the lid to ensure that the gas produced does not escape. Remove the spoon after some time. Add a small quantity of water into the tumbler and quickly replace the lid. Shake the tumbler well. Check the solution with the red and blue litmus. Whenever you are shaking the tumbler, you find that the whitish gas which is produced, why we are adding water? So the fumes which produced, they get dissolved into the water. And when you are checking this solution with the red and blue litmus paper, as you have seen here, this we are checking this solution with this red and blue litmus paper. So you find that the name of the product formed in the reaction of sulfur and oxygen is sulfur dioxide gas. When the sulfur dioxide is dissolved in water, sulfurous acid is formed. The reaction can be given as follows, that sulfur dioxide plus water, it gives sulfurous acid. That is SO2 plus H2O, it will gives to H2SO3. So the sulfurous acid turns blue litmus paper red. So yes, generally oxides of non-metals are acidic in nature. So yes, oxides of metals are basic and oxides of non-metals are acidic in nature. Now second part, that is the reaction with water. Now we will see how metals and non-metals react with water. Just even note before that, sodium metal is very reactive. It reacts vigorously with oxygen and water. A lot of heat is generated in the reaction. So this is the reason why sodium is stored in kerosene. Means in water, if you want to keep, then also in water there is presence of oxygen, so it will start to react vigorously with the oxygen which is present in the water. So it is kept in the kerosene. Now the activity 5. Yes, precaution we have to take that to be demonstrated by the teacher. During demonstration, special care should be taken that the size of sodium metal piece is roughly the size of the wheat grain. Means it should be small. It should be held with the pair of tongs during observation. Keep away from the beaker. So just we will see the reaction. So take a 250 ml of beaker or the glass tumbler. Fill half of it with water. Now carefully cut the sodium piece. Okay, means this very small piece we have to cut of the sodium metal and dry it using the filter paper. And wrap it in a small piece of the cotton. Put the sodium piece wrapped in a cotton into the beaker and observe carefully. So when the reaction stops, touch the beaker. What do you feel? Has the beaker become hot? Test the solution with the red and blue litmus paper. Is the solution acidic or basic? So yes, you will observe that sodium reacts vigorously with the water. Some other metals do not do so. For example, iron reacts with water slowly. Generally, non-metals do not react with the water, though they may be very less reactive in air. Such non-metals are stored in water. For example, phosphorus is very reactive non-metal. It catches fire when it exposes to air. To prevent the contact of phosphorus with atmospheric oxygen, it is stored in a water. Now we will see activity 6, reaction with acids. But for this, you need to take precaution that keep the mouth of test tube away from your face and use test tube holder to hold the test tube. Now we will see the activity. So take samples of the metals and non-metals in separate test tube and label them as A, B, C, D, E and F. With the help of dropper, add 5 ml of dilute hydrochloric acid to each test tube one by one. Observe the reactions carefully. If no reaction occurs in cold solution, warm the test tube gently and bring the burning matchstick near the mouth of each test tube. Repeat the same activity using dilute sulfuric acid instead of dilute hydrochloric acid. And yes, record your observation. In their difference in the way metals and non-metals react with acid, what could the pop sound in the same cases be due to when a burning matchstick is brought near the mouth of the test tubes? So just see, you have observed that non-metals generally do not react with acids, but metals react with acids and produce hydrogen gas that burns with pop sound. You must have noticed that copper does not react with dilute hydrochloric acid even on heating, but reacts with sulfuric acid. So, yes, you are able to, now from this we can conclude that metals react with acids and produces hydrogen gas which gives the pop sound. Now see activity 7. Yes, we need to take precaution measure that it should be demonstrated by the teacher, and during the preparation of sodium hydroxide solution, care should be taken that that sodium hydroxide should be handled with the plastic spatula. Now we will see the activity. So prepare a fresh solution of sodium hydroxide in a test tube by dissolving 3-4 pellets of it in 5 ml of water. Drop a piece of aluminum foil in it. Bring a burning matchstick near the mouth of the test tube and observe carefully. As before, the pop sound indicates the presence of hydrogen gas. Metals react with sodium hydroxide to produce hydrogen gas. Reactions of non-metals with bases are complex. Now we will see the displacement reaction. So take 500 ml, take 500 ml beakers and label them as A, B, C, D and E. Take 50 ml of water in each beaker. Dissolve in each beaker a tablespoon of each substance. So, for this, in beaker A, we have to dissolve the copper sulfate solution. In B also, we have to dissolve the copper sulfate. In beaker C, zinc sulfate. In beaker D, iron sulfate. And in beaker E, zinc sulfate. And just put some zinc granules in beaker A, iron nail in beaker B, copper turnings in beaker C, copper turning in beaker D, and iron nail in beaker E. Means just if we see the summarization, so in beaker A, now there is a combination of copper sulfate plus zinc granule. In beaker B, copper sulfate plus iron nail. In beaker C, zinc sulfate plus copper turning, and in beaker D, zinc sulfate plus copper turning. In beaker E, we are adding zinc sulfate and iron nail. So, in this process, we have seen, if you observe it carefully, so you have read that one metal displaces another metal from its compound in aqueous solution. In beaker A, zinc replaces copper from copper sulfate solution. That is why the blue color of copper sulfate disappears and a powdery red mass of copper is deposited at the bottom of the beaker. The reaction can be represented as copper sulfate plus zinc. It gives zinc sulfate plus copper. Means CuSO4 plus zinc, which is blue in color, so it turns to ZnSO4 plus Cu, which appears to colorless or red. So you can write down the reaction taking place in beaker B in a similar manner. So in beaker B, which solutions are there? Copper sulfate plus iron nail. So there could have been displacement of zinc by copper in beaker C and by iron in beaker E. Similarly, iron could be displaced by copper in beaker D. Since we do not see any change in beaker C, we can infer that copper is not able to replace the zinc from the zinc sulfate. But the question is that why? When zinc can replace copper in beaker A, why cannot copper replace zinc in beaker C? So remember that science is not arbitrary. It follows the definite rules based on facts. And the rule here is that zinc is more reactive than copper and iron. A more reactive metal can replace a less reactive metal, but a less reactive one cannot replace a more reactive metal. Now you can understand why there is no displacement reactions in beaker D and E also. So see, In this way, we have seen the displacement reaction. Displacement reaction means a highly reactive reaction. Now we will see uses of metals as well as non-metals. So you should be able to guess why metals are used in making machinery, automobiles, aeroplanes, trains, satellite, industrial gadgets as well as cooking utensil, water boiler, etc. You are also familiar with the uses of some non-metals. So yes, what do you think? Why the metals are used? Yes, correct. Because metals property means if we see the properties of the metals, they are means as we have seen the metals are hard one, metals are lustrous, they are ductile. So all these properties helpful to making these gadgets and all these materials. So now we will see uses of metals as well as non-metals with some interesting one. So here are some interesting one. We are sure that you guess them right. So non-metals essential for our life which all living being inhale during breathing. Yes, correct. That is oxygen. Non-metals used in fertilizers to enhance the growth of plants. Yes, your guess is a correct one. The nitrogen. Non-metals used in water purification. Chlorine. Non-metals used in the purple colored solution which is applied on the wounds as an antiseptic. Non-metals used in crackers. So you can add some more uses of metals as well as the non-metals from your experiences. Now we will discuss little bit about the elements. So you have learned that in a chemical reaction, new substances are formed. These substances are different from those which underwent the reaction. Now, if the substance cannot be broken down further by chemical reactions, means by cooling or by heating or by electrolysis, it is called as element. Means sulfur is an element, so is iron, carbon too, it is an element. The smallest unit of element is atom. A sample of element contain only one kind of atom. The atom of an element remains unaffected by physical changes in the element. Now, for example, an atom of liquid sulfur would be exactly the same as the atom of solid or vapor sulfur. Although we have an infinite variety of substances in the universe, the number of elements forming these substances is limited. There are no more than 92 naturally occurring elements, and important classification of elements is in terms of metals and non-metals. Most of the elements are metals, less than 20 are non-metals. A few are metalloids. Metalloids means which possesses both the characteristics, metals as well as non-metals. So metalloids are the elements that possess properties of both metals as well as the non-metals. So just see, metals and non-metals are used widely in our day-to-day life. So see my dear friends, elements can be categorized as metals and non-metals on the basis of their physical and chemical properties. Metals are lustrous whereas non-metals are no luster. The property of substance by which it can be beaten into thin sheet is called malleability. The property of substances by which it can be drawn into the thin wire is called ductility. Metals are usually malleable and ductile, while non-metals are neither malleable and nor ductile. Metals are usually good conductor of heat and electricity, but non-metals are poor conductors. Metals are sonorous, while non-metals are not sonorous. On burning, metals react with oxygen to form metallic oxides. whereas non-metals on burning produces non-metallic oxides. So in generally, metallic oxides are basic in nature and non-metallic oxides are acidic in nature. Metals react with water to produce metal hydroxide and hydrogen gas. Non-metals do not react with water. Sodium is a highly reactive metal and it reacts vigorously with water. So it is kept under the kerosene. Phosphorus is highly reactive non-metal. It catches fire when exposed to air, so it is stored in water. Metals react with acid to produce metallic salts and hydrogen gas that burns with pop sound. Generally, non-metals do not react with acids. Some metals react with bases to produce the hydrogen gas. However, reactions of metals with bases are little bit complex one. More reactive metal displace the less reactive metals from their compounds in aqueous solution as per the reactivity series. A chemical reaction in which a more reactive metal displaces a less reactive metal from a salt solution is called displacement reaction. Metals and non-metals are in our day-to-day life. Metalloids are the elements that having both properties of metals as well as non-metals. In this way, we have seen our fourth chapter, materials, metals and non-metals.